Is there any specific contribution to mankind in Buddhism which we cannot find in other religions? Very interesting question, isn't it? In simple language, why Buddhism? In spite of various other religions, why is it necessary for us to maintain or follow another religion as Buddhism? So we have to answer this question. What Buddhism can contribute? When you compare all those existing religions, you can see a lot of similarities, more similarities. Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, and various other religious cult and denominations. Mostly on morals and ethics and respectable or noble way of life. Every religion maintains the same ideas. Although we use different interpretation and maintain different concepts, let us take simple example, then you can understand. So when we talk about Buddhist precept, we advise people not to kill, not to steal, not to have sexual misconduct, and not to tell lies, and not to take intoxicating drinks and drugs or anything. These are the basic principles. Now let us refer to Christianity. Christianity had only one more word earlier. What is that? Thou shalt not. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not commit adultery. Now what is the difference between commandment and Buddhist precept? So when I introduce these 5 principles, people say, oh, we don't want to listen, that is Buddhism. When a Christian come and explain this commandment, we say we don't like it because it is Christianity. And Muslims and Hindus also come and tell us the same thing. We brand them as Hindus and Muslims. So we maintain these discriminations due to lack of understanding. Because each and every person maintain that this is my religion. This is our religion. That is the most important thing to many people. But when we analyze the basic principles, we can see more similarities. But there are differences. Different belief, different practices, entirely different. Let us divide again all the existing religions. Islam, Christianity, Hinduism, Sikhism, Judaism, Zoroastrianism, any other ism. very strongly believe that there is one Creator God who created everything in this world, in this universe. And we are at His mercy. So everything works here in this world according to His will. Therefore we must surrender. Otherwise, there is no salvation for us. Regarding this concept, Buddhism stands alone. Buddhism never joined with them when we come to this particular subject. And maintain this for more than 2,500 years before many of those religions come into existence. Therefore, there is no reason for us to surrender our religious principle just because others maintain such belief. Then what should be the attitude of Buddhists? And this is more important. Although we have differences, here the importance of tolerance or understanding can settle this problem. That means we should not look down upon or condemn all those who believe in God for their salvation. Let them maintain their own concept. So we don't want to interfere and argue with them to justify that our belief is correct and they are wrong. The Buddha has given this warning. When you read his discourses, when he was about to pass away, the followers of another religion, having heard that Buddha was a well-known religious teacher in that country at that time, he wanted to come and pay respect, but he was not a Buddhist. But he was interrupted by Venerable Ananda. He said, the Buddha is in a critical condition. Therefore you should not disturb him. The Buddha overheard this and said, Ananda, don't interrupt. Allow him to come and see me. Then he had the chance to go and talk to the Buddha. At once he asked this question. Do you know there are many other religions in this country? And what is your opinion about those religions and preachings and the founders of those religions? Now then, the Buddha said, it is not my duty to investigate, to find out, or to pass remarks about other existing religions. If you want to know what I preach, I can tell you. And then he was convinced and wanted to become one of the followers of the Buddha. And he was the last disciple of the Buddha. He was ordained on the spot. There are many other occasions the Buddha has mentioned this kind of thing. So when we practice our religion in this country, we know very well there are many other religions. Let them practice their religion. But unfortunately, others cannot maintain this attitude. They think we are very unfortunate, we are sinners, and we have no chance to find out our salvation unless and until we accept their religion. This attitude is entirely wrong. Nearly 1 year ago, a news item appeared in Malay Mail. Catholic Church announced, first time, that they believe that the followers of other religions also can find out their salvation. They realize, although it is too late. That means they have learned to appreciate the teachings or the methods of other religions. One Catholic priest who came from another country had a long talk with me. Then I gave him one copy of my book, What Buddhists Believe. After reading this book, again he came to see me and told me, Reverend, I can tell you frankly, I have become a good Christian after reading your book. Then how come? Yes, it's a very interesting story. Do you know, formerly I had a belief that the followers of other religions have no chance to find out their salvation unless they go through Jesus. But after reading your book, I withdraw that belief. That is why I told you I am a good Christian now. See the way how they realize. But we realized this more than 2,500 years ago. Take for instance, 2 weeks ago, I had to give a talk at the Pure Life Society immediately after the talk given by that American gentleman who gave a talk here about worries and emotions. The subject is the Buddha nature. He spoke. He said this is according to Tibetan traditions and this and that. But we found out there is nothing extraordinary things to introduce as Tibetan Buddhism. The same thing we can find in the teachings of the Buddha. So I cannot understand why it is necessary to give another label for this. I do not know whether you can remember. In his talk, he mentioned, do you know, according to Tibetan tradition, to get rid of anger or emotion, we must practice meditation. Is that the Tibetan Buddhism? He also told us, according to our method, we concentrate on our breath, inhaling, exhaling, and the feeling. Is that the Tibetan Buddhism? So people may think that is Tibetan Buddhism. So, after his talk, I had to speak on the same subject, the Buddha nature. There were Muslims, Christians, Hindus, and Sikh, and so many other small religious denominations. Then I told them, You must understand. The Buddha nature we can find in each and every living beings, not only amongst the Buddhists, not only among the human beings. A Muslims or a Christian or Hindus or those who have no religions also maintain the Buddha nature. Religious label is not important for a person to cultivate a real religious way of life or a noble life. People ask this question. Today we are Buddhist and we believe a rebirth takes place again and again. So we want to continue our Buddhist way of life. Right? If rebirth takes place in a Muslim family or a Christian family, how can we practice Buddhism? What do you think about this question? What is your answer? Can you practice Buddhism as a Muslim or a Christian or a Hindu? Please remember, those are religious labels. So labels are not important. The most important thing is the inner feeling. How far we have cultivated real human values, knowledge and understanding, how far we have developed our wisdom and noble or respectable or harmless life. Do you think all those Muslims and Christians and Hindus are wicked and cruel and dangerous people? I have been associating with them for more than 35 years. I have noticed there are very cultured, very noble and understanding, kind-hearted Muslims, Christians and Hindus than those so-called Buddhists. Therefore, we should not think we are the only cultured or religious people. Others are wrong. In others, we can find a lot of good principles. Honesty, kindness or compassion, understanding, patience, all the good qualities we can find amongst the followers of other religions also. That is why we should not discriminate them. That is why we don't want to maintain some sort of superiority complex, that we are higher than the others. But we have different opinions. When we talk about these opinions, we try to justify. But we don't want to discriminate others. Now let us take the Buddha. When you read the Jataka stories, previous birth stories of the Buddha, how he had to work, struggle by sacrificing everything, cultivating all the great virtues and knowledge and wisdom to become a Buddha. But do you think he practiced all those great qualities and the virtues and understanding as a Buddhist? Where was Buddhism at that time? In fact, rebirth has taken place as animals also. In the final birth, when he was born in a royal family as Prince Siddhartha, do you think he was born in a Buddhist family? His father and mothers were not Buddhist. But he had this understanding, all the great qualities and the virtues. So the religious brands or religious labels are based on their culture, traditions, way of life, environment, circumstances. But the real religious values you cannot find in them. So I told them, a Muslim can become a Buddha one day. A Christian can become a Buddha if they can cultivate all the great virtues and the good qualities. Do you think that nirvana, our final goal, is confined only to Buddhists? Nirvana is open to everybody who cultivate the necessary qualities and the virtues and the purity. Religious labels are not important. Let us take another example. We always talk about Pacceka Buddhas. Buddha and Pacceka Buddha. In English, we introduce them as silent Buddhas or private Buddhas. That means after gaining their enlightenment, they confine to themselves. Never go out to preach. That is their nature. But at that time, when they gain this enlightenment to become Pacceka Buddhas, there is no Buddhism and no Buddhas at that time. Because of their previous experience, they go on cultivating, developing all the necessary virtues and the qualities and gain enlightenment to become Pacceka Buddha. So many people cannot understand this. We say we are Buddhist. Do you know? I hope you won't get angry with me when I say that the Buddha was not a Buddhist. You may get a shock. Do you agree or not? Buddha was not a Buddhist. He was the enlightened one, not a Buddhist. And those who follow him, his teaching, are the Buddhists. So, to them there is no label. Their wisdom, understanding, all the great qualities are common. They never claim anything. Completely free from all these things what we claim. Now let us come to this question. A specific contribution to mankind in Buddhism which we cannot find in any other religions. Yes, there are. This is the uniqueness in Buddhism. The label Buddhism is not important here. In the Buddha's teaching, you can see this. The first thing is complete freedom. Now you can compare the Buddha's teaching and the religious laws and commandment and restriction that people follow according to their respective religion. Definitely, we experience more freedom. Freedom does not mean you can do anything whatever you like. According to many other religions, they have their ready-made religious concept and ask you to accept and believe. You cannot find this in Buddhism or in the Buddha's teaching. So when you accept certain concept and belief given to you from a religion, after that you never use your thinking power. Never investigate or analyze to understand whether this concept or this belief or this practice is right or wrong. This is the disadvantage of many of those religious restrictions, commandments and religious laws. In Buddhism you cannot find commandments, no religious laws, no religious punishment. The Buddha teaches us to use our human mind to understand that what we observe as precepts or principles are right or wrong. But don't accept anything thinking the Buddha who introduced these religious precepts is a very powerful, very intelligent religious teacher. If you depend on person to accept this, you lose your thinking power. Depend on a person. But all the others say, I am the only one, almighty and powerful. If you do not follow me, my commandment, my laws, you get into trouble. On the other hand, the Buddha said, especially in Kalama Sutra and many other places, don't accept anything thinking that the Buddha who introduced this principle is a great man. You have to use your common sense and understand. Again, as Buddhist, you cannot say you are forbidden to do this or to eat this. You cannot use this word. Forbidden by whom? By knowing why it is wrong. We decide or we determine not to do such thing. But you cannot use that word, or as Buddhists we are forbidden. It is un-Buddhistic. Take few examples. Every religion teaches that killing is bad. But they introduce this as a religious law or a commandment given by the God. But before these religions come into existence in this world, even few thousand years ago, many people realize that killing is bad. Therefore, not necessary for us to get any commandment from anywhere to understand that it is wrong. In the Buddha's teaching, what he says, I am telling you everything, good and bad things, not as a law, not because I got any divine message from anywhere to reveal according to my own experience. What is this experience? During my repeated birth and death in samsara, I have done a lot of bad things. Now I can understand how I had to suffer because of my wrongdoings. At the same time, I have done a lot of good deeds. Then I can remember how I experienced the good result, effects for my good deeds. So I am telling you according to my experience. That is why we never accept Buddhism as a theory or a philosophy or a psychology. It is a practical way of life, noble life for us to practice through understanding. Again he says, if you cannot understand why killing and stealing and all these things are wrong, then you can compare. How do you feel when another person come and try to kill you? How do you feel at that time? Do you feel happy? That is more than enough for you to understand why killing is bad. That is called realization. No commandment, no religious laws there. Attanang upamang kattva nahaneya nagataye in Dhammapada. This is the nature of the Buddha's teaching. But can you find such teaching in other religion, although they also try to introduce the same principle? Their approach is by creating some sort of fear in your mind that if you violate this, the one who has given these commandments or religious laws will punish you. You cannot find such teachings in Buddhism. The people say, don't do that, God will punish you. This is actually children's language. Adults should not use this language, because children cannot understand why these things are wrong. So that is the only language we have to use for children. When we ask them to do some good things, they don't appreciate and they cannot understand, they don't know what to do. Then we say, if you do this, we will buy you nice dress, chocolate, ice cream. Then they will do that. The way how they introduce their religion exactly by using children's language. If you do good, the God will reward you. Then you would like to do that. If you do this bad thing, the God will punish you. This language you cannot find in German philosopher or doctor Paul Dahlke, who has written a beautiful book, Buddhism and Science. In his book, he says, Buddhism is just like an adult. All the other religions are just like small children. Why? Small children always depend on others. They cannot understand. They do not know how to prepare even their food. For everything they have to depend on others, parents or elders. But Adults can understand many things. They know how to look after themselves, prepare their own things. So the Buddhists are just like adults. Without depending on another person to look after them, they know how to look after themselves. This is the difference. There is a parable given by the Buddha in Samyutta Nikaya, I think. A teacher and his disciple, when they wanted to perform some sort of tricks, acrobats, very dangerous one, very risky. The teacher asked the disciple, now when we are going to perform these dangerous tricks, don't forget to look after each other. I will look after you and you have to look after me when we perform these tricks. Then the disciple said, I don't think it is a good idea. If you try to look after yourself and I try to look after myself, that method is more practical. This is the nature of the Buddha's teaching. The Buddha has given this parable. So when we depend on others for everything, forever, we have to surrender ourselves to others. And we lose our self-confidence. We lose our willpower. We lose our real human intelligence. No chance to use. Always depend on another person. So whatever we do, whatever we believe, we are doing it either in the name of God or the Buddha. We are doing it. But the Buddha has pointed out directly, this is the method you have to practice. Then the freedom that we experience, many other religions cannot experience this. Take for instance, now as Buddhists, we can attend, if they allow us to do, we can attend any religious service conducted by Christians, Muslims, Hindus or others. No restriction. And we also can respect them. But others say, oh, we are forbidden. Sorry, we cannot attend your religious service. It is a sin. Some others say, we cannot enter into this temple. It is a sin. But as Buddhists, we can enter any place of worship. We can respect. And also, we can respect Jesus Christ, Krishna, Muhammad, or any other religious teacher. In the Buddha's teaching, you can find this. Pujako labhate pujang, vandako pativandana. In the Parita chanting book, you can see this. Respect beget respect. If I don't respect others, others never respect me. Pujako, in the same manner. If you don't contribute anything for the benefit of others, we also never get anything from others. But others say, sorry, we cannot contribute anything in the name of your religion, it is a sin. A man in India, a well-known personality, approached the Buddha. He said, I heard your teaching is excellent, so also decided to become one of your followers. Then the Buddha said, have you ever heard my teaching? No. Then how do you know my teaching is good or bad? How do you know? Don't change your religion unless you realize what this religion teaches. People may talk a lot about other religion, but don't listen to them at once. Before you change your religion, you must study and think. Try to understand the real religious values in that religion. Then this man said, I think it is not necessary for me to learn. This advice is more than enough for me to understand the nature or the value of your religion. Because if I have approached another religious teacher in this country, at once they embrace me and accept me, convert me, and announce, such a big man also come and embrace our religion. Instead, you advise me to wait and study and investigate, so many things to do. This is the Buddha's attitude. Can others do the same thing? After that, he became a Buddhist. Then asked another question. This is very interesting. He said, I am a rich man, have been supporting the religious teachers of my former faith. Actually now I am not belong to that religion. I am a Buddhist. So as a Buddhist, can I support those priests? If another religious teacher beside the Buddha said, oh, now you cannot do. It is a sin. You cannot support other religious teachers. Now it is a sin. The Buddha said, you can support any living beings in this world. It is a meritorious deed. Not only human beings. You can feed those worms or flies. It is a meritorious deed. You can see the difference now. But can you find another religion in this world where they maintain this attitude? I remember one day I went to Singapore and visited a Buddhist family. I have known them for many years. After that, they have removed the small Buddha images that they were wearing. And one of them, one boy, has become a Christian. And he was wearing a cross. When others handed over the small Buddha images for me to bless, and this boy, also innocent boy, he also took out his cross and handed over to me to bless. So the Buddha images and the cross all together, and I blessed and handed over. But I did not ask even why you became a Christian. I did not say, sorry, I cannot do this, I cannot bless the cross. It is a sin. If not, you won't get the blessing because you are not belong to Buddhist religion. This is the Buddhist attitude. Because these things are symbols. Image also a symbol. The cross also a religious symbol. So what is the difficulty for us to bless? I asked this question during an inter-religious seminar. There were many Christian bishops and priests. Can you do this? When you visit a house, if others hand over small Buddha images to you, can you bless this? This is the Buddhist attitude. We can tolerate, we have that understanding, not to discriminate. Religion is religion. Differences are there. But we should not bring forward all these differences to discriminate or to ridicule or to criticize. That is why a religious tolerance is important. Religious tolerance does not mean that we must follow, we must practice the duties or the practices of all the existing religions together. You must practice your religion, but should not disturb others in their practices. If they approach you asking some help or donation, you can give whatever you like with good intention. Nothing wrong. This is called religious tolerance. Because we have to cooperate with others in many other areas. Not only in the religious field, we have to live and work together. So our mutual understanding, cooperation and harmony, these things are very important. Just because we have different religious label, we should not stare at others. We should not disturb others. We should not accuse others. This is the Buddhist attitude. So we have maintained this attitude for more than 2,500 years, and we hope that we will be able to maintain this good principle. At the same time, we also believe that others should not disturb us to practice our religion. Because we do not disturb others, and we do not think that others are sinners. There is no ground for us to say. Just now I told you, there are many noble, respectable, religious-minded, cultured people amongst the followers of other religions. But they say we are sinners. No ground at all. And what they say? The original sins by nature we maintain. So each and every human being is a sinner. So unless we accept their belief and baptize, we cannot get rid of these sins. Then we have no chance to go to heaven. This is the argument. Right. They say that God can wash away our sins when we are going to die or after our death. But nobody knows whether it really can do or not. Nobody knows. Just say, if there is any possibility for God to wash away our sins, in the end, what is the difficulty for God to remove our sins when we were born? Immediately after our birth, why it is difficult for God to remove or take out our sin? If He can do that, we never commit sins. We never disturb others. So can you justify their argument? Why they promise to wash away our sins after our death? In simple language, they have introduced this concept just to convert others into their religion, only for that purpose. Everybody knows that no one can prove after our death whether the God has washed away our sins or not. But if He can do that from the very beginning, immediately after our birth, then we can see, yes, we are very cultured and understanding and kind and cooperative people, never create any disturbances because God has washed away our sin. If God can do that, tomorrow all of us can follow that God. Then there are hundreds and one things. We can point out the freedom or the contribution that Buddhism has done towards the mankind to maintain human dignity and also to make use of human intelligence. But others do not allow you to maintain your human intelligence. They ask you to believe what they command you. If not, punish you. Because of fear, you accept, you pretend that you follow. But in your heart, there is no belief. Whenever chances arise, you commit, you violate everything. But Buddhism tried to train man's mind to understand why these things are wrong and why these things are good. So when you realize, you will be very happy. You maintain, you observe and practice, not because of fear of punishment, but to maintain purity, happiness, contentment in your life, and in the end to find out the final salvation also without depending on others. Now let us take another example. After our death, what sort of commotion and dispute that many people create because of their different religions. The Buddhists are completely free from all these disturbances. Some religionists say they cannot burn or cremate the dead body. It is forbidden. Another religion say we cannot bury the dead body, we must burn. This is our religious principle. There are. Another religion say neither. We cannot bury, we cannot cremate. Then what are they going to do? Keep at home. What they do, they carry the dead body, keep somewhere on the peak of a rock or the hill, if not pillar. Allow birds and others to come and enjoy the flesh. They cannot bury, they cannot cremate. Again, there were many cases here. After their death, people come to know the label of their religion. They pretend or they live as Buddhist. When you study the IC card, after death, the name of another religion, either Christians or a Muslim. So today he is buried in a Buddhist cemetery. Next day when those people come to know that he was converted into another religion, they come and dig and exhume and take away the body. Because their belief is, if this person is buried in a Buddhist cemetery, he cannot go to heaven. Must go through their cemetery. Can you imagine the danger of this religious fanaticism? Buddhists are completely free from this. 2 years ago, there was a case here, somewhere in Brickfield. A Chinese. He was a born Buddhist, and later he accepted Christianity. Again he changed his religion and embraced Islam. But nobody knew his personality. So after his death, the family members prepared the Buddhist burial. His Christian friends, they came to know that he died. They also come and wanted to perform Christian religious rite. Then when they went to police station to get the permit, they found out a Muslim name. Then the Muslims also came. 3 religious groups are going to claim this dead body. Then somebody came to see me. So, as a Buddhist or Buddhist leader, what is your attitude at this juncture? Then I told, we Buddhists never fight for dead bodies. If you can take away and do according to your religious rites, so much the better, easy for us. Because this religious rite at the last moment actually is only for the namesake. You cannot find real religious values there. These are our traditions, customs, culture, way of life. We perform all those things, chanting, blessing, singing, praying, worshipping, offering, slaughtering animals and doing all these things are rubbish, actually speaking. The real religious values, what that person who died, what he has accumulated during his lifetime, and he is responsible for his next life. Just by giving Buddhist rites or Christian rites or Muslim rites, we cannot change. He is responsible for his own karma. We cannot change his karma by praying and worshipping and offering. So to us, there is nothing. Of course, we had to perform various things to carry on certain traditions and cultured or cultural method, otherwise people cannot satisfy. Now in my case, still I am thinking, not finalized. I don't know whether you allow. After my death, I am thinking to donate my dead body to university hospital. Keep there and allow those medical students to study anatomy. They keep this dead body for a long time. So part by part they cut and study. So how happy I will be if I can do that. So my dead body will be benefited to many others. You may organize very big funeral procession, thousands of people attend, and flower bouquets and banners and carry all sort of things, make hell of a noise, and after that come back, some may shed tears, some others laugh. Oh, show, just show. This is called understanding. So personally I don't believe there is any religious value in those practices. But we had to do to console others. Because their understanding is not like, if I say not like ours, not nice, You think I boast myself, not nice. That's what I always say, my Buddhism is not actually your Buddhism. Entirely two different type of Buddhism. My understanding about the Buddha, his teaching, and this religion is not like yours. But don't try to follow me. You have to develop this understanding. Then automatically you also adjust your religious way of life. So, then discrimination. First time in the world history or religious history, the women were given full freedom to practice a religion. More than 2,500 years ago, by the Buddha. Full freedom to practice religion without any restriction. But all the other religions still maintain many restrictions, formally never allowed to enter even any place of worship. The Buddha has done this. He was very badly accused and criticized by many other religions at that time. Again, the social ills in the society existing, discrimination such as caste system, it's a very ugly and horrible situation, the caste discrimination. Those so-called human beings who belong to a low caste family, never allowed to come and take even a cup of water or bucket of water when they are going to die. This is the danger of caste system in India at that time, even today. Occasionally you can read in the newspapers of clashes, bloodshed, low caste and high caste people. And the Buddha introduced a holy order of monks and nuns for people not to differentiate whether they have come from royal families or from low caste or laborers' families. Only one uniform. No grades, no different gadgets. One bald head, one yellow robe. Whether he is a prince who has come from royal family or whether he is a beggar, scavenger's family, all are equal. And the prince who has come from royal family, after becoming a monk, kneel down and pay respect to the elderly monk, although he has come from a scavenger's family. See this, what sort of contribution the Buddha has done. No discrimination, but unfortunately, now the monks started to introduce this discrimination, using all sort of gadgets and colorful robes and crowns and so many things to show off. They are very advanced and they are very powerful, and they put the crown on the Buddha's head also. Can you imagine? A prince who has thrown away the crown and renounced his kingdom and become a mendicant, become a beggar voluntarily, and gained his enlightenment. And how stupid we are. Again we put back this crown on the Buddha's head and try to show off, must go and worship and pray and you get more blessing. The man who has renounced gold, jewelries, all the valuable things when he renounced the worldly life. And today what are we doing? We bring gold leaves and apply all over the Buddha's head and face and dirty the Buddha figure. You think you get more merit by distorting the Buddha figure? Is that the way to respect the Buddha? By using our poor mentality, we do all these things thinking we get more merits. We are crazy for merits. What for? To enjoy. Buddhism, the main purpose of Buddhism, my dear friend, is to reduce our crazy attitude toward this worldly life by knowing the uncertainty, futility. But we don't want to think about all those things. Always blessing, prosperity. That's all. So when you study all these things, what Buddha or Buddhism has contributed to open the man's eyes to understand things you cannot find in any other religion. We respect all the other religions. We allow them to practice their religion without disturbing them. But we maintain this freedom which we cannot find in any other religion. In conclusion, I would like to tell a nice joke. A priest who used to visit a house, one of his friends' house, a female dog in that house given birth to 3 puppies. And that family belonged to another religion, not nice for me to mention the name of that religion. Because I said we don't criticize other religions. So this priest asked whether these puppies also embrace their religion. Oh yes, they also embrace. We baptize them. After 1 or 2 weeks' time, also he visited this house. So then again he started to talk about these puppies. And he told, the other day you told me they also embrace your religion. Do they maintain that religious attitude? Then that man said, no. Now they have become Buddhist. How come? Because they have opened the eyes. Now they can see the things properly. Very simple joke, but very meaningful. I think better to stop. This is Dhammapada, chapter 2, Appamadavagga, heedfulness. The stanza is Pamadang appamadena yada nudati pandito panya pasada maruya asoko sokining padan pabbatattova bhummatte dhiro bale avekkati. The teachings of the Buddha allocated or divided into different categories, different groups. All the stanzas or Pali Gathas we can find in different books. And Dhammapada is one of them. In this book, or the sayings of the Buddha, we can find very simple and practical for our day-to-day life, but not very philosophical or theoretical or psychological. There are many things for us to learn from this book. Most of these stanzas are advices given by the Buddha due to certain incident which have taken place during the Buddha's time. And the meaning of this saying. Now another problem, English translation. When you read the English translation, you won't be able to catch the real meaning because of the language problem, unless some sort of commentaries or interpretations are given. Now let us take the meaning of this stanza. When an understanding one discards heedlessness by heedfulness, he, free from sorrow, ascends to the palace of wisdom and surveys the sorrowing folk as a wise mountaineer surveys the ignorant groundlings. Now this is the English translation. So when we explain actually what the Buddha wanted to tell us, is this in simple language. When we try to overcome our laziness by using our efforts in various ways, we can climb the top. After climbing, when you look at, we can see the down that people have not reached up to that extent to understand many things. Now, isn't it? That is the real meaning of the Buddha's saying. So, laziness is one of the mental hindrances which cause or which become the cause of our downfall. When we use our effort, either mentally or physically, we will be able to reach or to gain many things for our day-to-day life, for our worldly life, and also to gain more knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. It is due to lack of this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding we act blindly. We create a lot of imaginations and maintain so many superstitious, meaningless belief, concept, and practices, especially in the name of religion. When we come to religion, we can understand that religion is a soft ground for others to dig very easily and to inject or to introduce many beliefs and concepts. Now, if you have not developed your understanding and knowledge, you accept and you believe because you are innocent. You are not cunning. Your thinking power is not advanced to analyze. Then you become the victims to many of those crooked, selfish, so-called religious leaders this situation is very unhealthy, spreading all over the world in the name of religion. Many educated young people, especially in other parts of the world, in the West, completely given up religious concept and belief, because the religion which was introduced earlier could not contribute anything for them to appreciate according to their intellectual capacity, intellectual analysis. But in this part of the world, still many people maintain belief and superstitious ideas. So this is a very good ground for them to introduce various religious cult and creed and belief and practices. But after some times, when they come to know, when they realize many things, slowly they will give up. When you study the history of Buddhism for more than 2,500 years, when you read the teachings of the Buddha, you may come across certain teachings or certain areas which you cannot understand. That means your worldly way of thinking and way of thinking what others maintain or develop, when you compare, you can see the difference. Now let us take few sayings of Confucius, Lao Tzu, Socrates, and the Buddha, or Jesus, or Krishna, or Muhammad. We cannot catch the real meaning at once. After reading those passages, we create our own imagination according to our way of thinking, then misinterpret and distort. That is how they develop so many religious denominations in the same religions. Let us take Christianity. I heard today there are more than 400 Christian denominations all over the world. They have different concepts about Jesus and about God and heaven. Let us take Hinduism. Nobody knows how many thousands of denominations are there amongst Hindus. Buddhism originated in India. For a few hundred years went on a spread without changing the basic teachings. Later, what happened? When so many Brahmins and Hindus entered into the holy order as Buddhist monk, again they injected most of those Hindu tradition, Hindu customs and belief as Buddhism and Buddhist practices. Then divided into different schools. And they try to glorify that our school is more advanced and far better than this or that. And this battle is still going on. More and more Buddhist cults, Buddhist creeds, Buddhist sects come into existence in different countries. Many things that the Buddha has rejected in his basic teaching, again they have incorporated, included into this religion and try to justify, saying this is the secret doctrine of the Buddha. Buddha has never revealed this thing to the public. Before his death, he has revealed only to few disciples secret doctrine. This is the way how they try to justify. What are those things? Mysticism, occultism, talisman, mantras, tantras, and there are few more. The Buddha has rejected very clearly all these practices, telling us we cannot find real religious value. Even astrology. Astrology is a scientific subject, but there you cannot find any religious value. But later, they tried to introduce all these practices as Buddhism. Going on changing the basic teachings of the Buddha. Then what happened? Wisdom, a spiritual development, sainthood, perfection, all these great qualities of the Buddha completely lost. And we are dealing with all those practices as Buddhism. An example. When you come to know a Buddhist monk or a Buddhist leader come to this country from another country, and people spread the news earlier, so and so will be coming, he is very powerful, he knows so many mantras, he can cure all your sicknesses, and he can do wonderful thing in this world. Then thousands and thousands of devotees follow him wherever they go, thinking he got power. What is that power you are seeking for? Is that the main purpose of Buddhism? Is that the message that Buddha wanted to convey us? So-called worldly power, miraculous power, supernatural power, even nuclear energies that is more powerful than any other kind of powers in this world, cannot contribute anything to train, to discipline the wicked and crooked and selfish human mind. The Buddha wanted to do only that much, to train this mind. The more you go on seeking powers for your material gain, worldly life, for pleasure, the more you experience fear, suspicion, some sort of insecurity feeling. All those powers cannot do anything to console your mind, to give confidence. Forever you remain, forever you shiver with fear and suspicion and tension. The method taught by the Buddha is to strengthen our mind, to understand the nature of human life, the nature of world, nature of the universe. So when we develop this understanding, we know how to face fact without following anybody, any gurus, any teachers. It is due to your weakness. You follow them blindly, thinking they have powers. That is what the Buddha says here. Must try to develop your mind by using your effort. So Buddhism is not a religion for you to maintain some sort of belief or mere faith. It is a religion for you to analyze, for you to study, to understand. After that you get confidence. You can satisfy. Then that understanding becomes unshakable. All those so-called miraculous powers, supernatural powers also cannot change your mind, because they are natural phenomena. So after developing this understanding, which is called wisdom, please remember, difference between knowledge and wisdom. We can develop our knowledge by reading books, by listening to others. Academic knowledge, scientific knowledge, worldly knowledge never gives wisdom. Remember this. All over the world, people have gained this academic knowledge and scientific knowledge and worldly knowledge, but they do not act wisely. They act foolishly. Many of those people who violate peace and happiness of innocent people, who bluff and swindle and disturb others, are educated people. But this knowledge that they gathered could not control their mind, not contribute anything for them to culture their mind. Here, wisdom is the only one which can enlighten. Then what is this wisdom? By using the same academic knowledge, book knowledge, or worldly knowledge, you can analyze. After that, you can understand. All these things are changeable, subject to decay and disappear, forgotten. Later, we develop some sort of unhappiness, unsatisfactoriness, worry, because we have lost many things that we have gained. We could not gain many things which we wanted. We got many things which we don't like, unwanted things. But if you can understand the nature of the world where we live, the nature of human life that we are leading, you never get frustrations or disappointments by using that analytical knowledge. This is the nature of the Buddha's teaching. Here in this stanza, the Buddha says, when you develop this understanding, it is not knowledge. Knowledge sometimes does not contribute anything to understand things. We maintain memories. That is called knowledge. We can refer to any books or any religion or any philosophy. We can give quotation, but there is no inner development in our heart or in our mind. We can see this whether we have developed anything in our heart by watching and observing how we talk, how we face our problems, how much tolerance and understanding we have developed, how we treat others. These are the things that we have to observe very carefully to find out whether there is an inner development in our mind. If these qualities are not there, our knowledge, our philosophy or psychology or religion